today, Quebec. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha has responded to recent overnight Russian attacks on Ukraine and said that a future trilateral meeting involving the leaders of Ukraine, US, and Russia could bring a breakthrough on the path to peace. He expressed gratitude to the US and President Trump for their efforts towards peacemaking. However, he also noted how critical it is to end the attacks, achieve lasting peace, and ensure robust security guarantees. He also confirmed earlier reports that the Russian attacks resulted in damage to Ukraine's energy infrastructure and caused injuries to civilians. This comes as the coalition of the willing will meet virtually today to debrief after last night's talks at the White House. Moreover, EU leaders are scheduled to participate in a virtual video conference of the European Council at 1 p.m. Brussels time, according to reports. Now, for this discussion, we are joined by Gleb Borukhov. He's an international affairs expert, joins us live from Moscow. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to NewsX World. Now, how do you think, how realistic is it for a trilateral meeting between Ukraine, US, and Russia?
In my view, it is becoming more and more realistic. However, there's still quite a lot of power struggle going on, as you can clearly see with Russia intensifying its attacks on Ukrainian infrastructure. I think every side is trying to to flex its muscle. We can clearly see it with Trump meeting Putin, at the air base, showcasing the latest U.S. jet fighters, and so on and so forth. But it looks like, to me, U.S. and Russia have reached some sort of framework agreement, which now needs to include the consent, some form of a consent from the European leaders. We shall see in the next coming days what shape and form this will take. And I think very interesting also would be to see how much influence does the US under President Trump have over the European leaders.
And now that we are seeing European leaders step up as a coalition for the will of the willing, and does this stance by Europe change anything towards US or Russia?
I think Europe, from what we can see over the last couple of years, Europe has been probably the stumbling block in this peace process. Apparently, there are some economic, geopolitical, or other types of interests at stake. Why Europe is so unwilling to accept, to be more flexible when negotiating with Russia. Because ultimately, if you think about it, Russia, and it's still there?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes. If you think about it, Russia has a legitimate interest to protect its borders, from what it is considering a potential threat, which is NATO expansion. So if we'd see something like this happening on the border of the United States, I don't know, Mexico would suddenly become a Chinese ally or something, US would immediately interfere. So from a geopolitical perspective, Russia's position is justified. Obviously, from a humanitarian perspective, no war can be justified, of course. But ultimately, Russia is not really asking for too much, from my understanding. I think the current US administration accepts that and admits that. It looks like they have finally heard the arguments that the Russian counterparts have been putting forward. The major resistance and reluctance remains from the European side. What are the true reasons for that? It's really hard to say, whether it's, some kind of emotional stubbornness, whether there is some serious, economic interest at stake, whether there is, a clash of a geopolitical doctrine. I think it's probably a combination of everything. And to me, it also looks like the European leaders are not really acting as, as independent entities either. Potentially, there is an upper layer, an upper echelon, which dictates what position they should be taking.
And building on that, why do you think you've mentioned Europe's stance and their motivation, their motive? But what do you think is President Trump's motive? Do you think it's solely winning the Nobel Prize, or there is other motives behind his move?
Again, I think it's a combination. I think there is definitely a personal interest involved. Trump's pride, so to speak, and his desire to form part of history books as a peacemaker. That I think there is definitely part of that. But I think in larger part, there's definitely some kind of economic interests behind this. Maybe I think traditionally, from what I've been seeing over the last, let's say, 10, 15 years, Democrats tend to, make money during the wars. Okay, that's why there's been so many wars going on during their governance. Whereas maybe Trump and his allies are looking to make money during the peacetime, because don't forget, there is a lot at stake when rebuilding Ukraine. And these infrastructure rebuilding and regeneration contracts are worth billions and billions. So probably even more than one can earn in selling armaments.
Thank you very much, Gleb Borukov, for sharing that. Please stay with us as we stay on this topic.